Would you say that Ant-Man is the best franchise in the Marvel films?
Yes.
Well, what if I were to tell you that Ant-Man 3 gets an exciting update and, quote, maybe Marvel's best script? Yeah, I only go to the cinema, the theatre, the movie theatre once a decade, and I was really excited to see the technological marvel of the new Avatar film, but it's got to be Ant-Man 3.
Everyone is so hyped for Ant-Man 3.
Yes. Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke. And this week we are celebrating the release of a film by one Steven Spielberg by looking at a film he made 20 years ago, and that film is Catch Me If You Can. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Catch Me If You Can?
It is a 2002 American biographical crime comedy drama, directed and produced by Steven Spielberg and starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks, with Christopher Walken, Martin Sheen, Natalie Bay, Amy Adams and James Brolin in supporting roles. The screenplay is by Jeff Nathanson and is based on the quote-unquote autobiography of Frank Abagnale, who claims that before his 19th birthday, he successfully performed cons worth millions of dollars by posing as a Pan-American pilot, and amongst other things. Anyway, the movie was released on December the 25th, 2002, and Michael, can you tell me what the budget was for Catch Me If You Can?
Well, I felt like it was mostly the actors. Tom Hanks, big guy. Leonardo DiCaprio, I think at this point, big guy. 60 million.
Good guess.
Phew. I'm glad it was a good guess.
It's 52.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
52 million. Can you tell me how much this made at the box office now?
Well, no, I can't actually. It's really difficult because I can't really imagine a film like this coming out nowadays. Well, maybe.
I can imagine it coming out. The question is how successful.
Yeah, not successful. Yeah. So with that said, I mean, but yeah, I think like this was back in the day, a better time for films before the capes took over. So I feel like probably did not too bad. Like maybe 150 million.
I think that you are going to get a mark here, Michael. Yes, you are. Because It wasn't 150. You have guessed less than half. Because it was 352. See,
dear, yeah.
This is still where movies like these kind of movies could do very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, if this movie came out in 2008 or 2009, I think you'd be there, but you were too early. I don't know why you would guess so low, considering it's Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like so much money. Like I just can't get my head around the fact that like back in the day, a film like this could have made so much money, even though that there wasn't even an Avenger in it.
There wasn't. Anyway, Michael, can you tell me whether you liked Catch Me If You Can?
I did like this film. I don't know that I can say that I thought there was anything exceptional. It's kind of like we've already hinted at the fact like this was made at a time when films like this could kind of just be made and do quite well. And that's a good thing. But then having said that, I'm kind of like, well, compared to loads of other quite similar films to this, I'm like, I mean, I would say it's probably average by those standards, but having said that, it's I guess average by good standards. So that's what I would describe this film as. I would say it's average by good standards.
I think this is a really good movie. This is a really, really good movie.
You could say it's your Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah, are you and again, I am embarrassed that I know we're going to rate somehow the Chamber of Secrets higher than this movie. I'm embarrassed for you that you're clearly going to do that. This is a really good movie. And on the surface, it could have been an interesting cat and mouse movie, but because of the examination of Frank Abagnale's character, which is such a great, great job by Steven Spielberg, he does such a good job with this character that and of course it's fun as well. It's a fun movie. I think this movie is really, really good. This is a top tier movie, honestly. Just it doesn't have any complicated, themes about, what does this say about society and so on and so forth. I'm sorry, it doesn't have fucking Hagrid in it.
I wish it did have Hagrid in it.
Maybe you would have given it a 10, but
Yeah.
of course it doesn't. So, it's only an average movie for you.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll get into that later. So, Michael, how many nitpicks do you have?
I've just got the one nitpick.
Okay. I have got 0, so you go first.
Oh,
I do have a lit pick, though, sorry.
Oh, okay, interesting. So basically, when he shows up at the engagement party, Tom Hanks, and Leonardo DiCaprio slips out the window, my question was, shouldn't they have positioned like policemen kind of like around the house, just like as a little bit of a patrol, considering the fact that they know this guy's a little bit slippy. Now, the thing is, this is the thing I want to say. I'm not saying that it therefore would have been impossible for Leonardo DiCaprio to escape. I'm saying that to have avoided this nitpick, all the film would have needed to do is show him like sneaking past some policemen who are like kind of forming a loose perimeter around the house.
Okay, my lit pick is the music.
I was going to put that as a lit pick too.
Yeah, I just the specific main theme music. Yeah, I didn't even need to say it, even though it was my lit pick. So thank you for cutting.
Yeah. I just thought I'd steal, because I like the music too.
Yeah. Well, make it your lit pick in the future then. I'm gonna do the music.
Okay.
Bad.
Terrible.
So let's get into the plot. So we have Frank Abagnale Jr., who, before his 19th birthday, successfully cons millions of dollars worth of checks as a Pan Am pilot, doctor, and legal prosecutor. An FBI agent makes it his mission to put him behind bars, but Frank not only eludes capture, he also revels in the pursuit. So yes, we have a cat and mouse game, and it says he revels in the pursuit. Kind of the message is he doesn't want to revel; he just wants a normal life. That is kind of the message of the movie. And of course, it's why it's a great movie, to be honest. And but it's also a comedy. It's a fun movie. It's got a lot of fun elements to it. It's got a lot of fun scenarios and moments. But it is also a tragic movie as well, because of course the character of Frank Abagnale is tragic. So yeah, anything else to say on the plot, Michael?
Yeah, just on the basic idea. I mean, I think it's a good premise. Obviously, it's one of those interesting ones where it's based on real life. And it's kind of like, when you think this is like a real life story, it's kind of not surprising that it was made into a movie, because this is definitely an interesting enough life story to qualify for a movie. I like that. Certainly better than fucking JD Vance. I don't know. Okay. I'm roasting him. Yes, but no, yeah. So I like that aspect of it.
Just on that, you mentioned it's a good enough story to be turned into a movie. But the thing is, you said, you also said it, because it happened in real life, it's not surprising it got turned into a movie. The thing is, it is one of those things, but it's not the other. It is a good story, but this did not happen in real life.
Oh, so is it very, like, is this... Because it is based... Okay, so it said it was based on a true story, and, like, the guy it's about is real, so is it, like, incredibly...
What did I say? What is it based on, I mean?
Well, I thought it was based on a book.
Yeah, which book?
An autobiography.
From who?
From the guy, the guy. So I'm guessing what you're getting at here is that the guy who wrote the book is himself a con man.
The con man who wrote his own autobiography might have lied about what he did in his life. Perhaps.
So it's the old unreliable narrator. Is this like? I mean, I'm surprised you didn't mention this. So is there like a lot to this whole he might have been a con man about his own life thing?
Well, that's the thing, because of course this is based off a true story, and you mentioned that, and that is what makes it intriguing as well. The fact that, this really happened, so obviously that means that you can then, I think, theoretically believe everything that happens in the movie, more so than if it wasn't, if it wasn't real, because obviously, hey, this happened, so they're just retelling it. But of course, this is a Steven Spielberg story. But the issues are that the records show Abagnale was in the Great Meadows prison in New York between the ages of 17 and 20. And before that, he was in the United States Navy. 6 weeks after his release from Great Meadow, he was rearrested in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He was jailed locally, and in June 1969, he was convicted of stealing from a local family and small business in Baton Rouge. Abagnale did dress as a Pan American airline pilot for a brief period in the fall of 1970. He was arrested in Cobb County, Georgia on November the 2nd, 1970. Federal court records associated with his convictions show he cashed only 10 personal checks dressed up with a Pan American Airlines logo, totaling less than $1,500 US. Not really 1.3 million, is it? Yes. The facts behind many of Abagnale's exaggerated claims and their inclusion or omission from the film had been the subject of media reporting in 2021. His claim that he passed the Louisiana bar exam and worked for Attorney General Jack Gramillion was debunked by several journalists in 1978. So that was already known.
Yeah.
At the time. So yeah, journalist Ira Perry was unable to find any evidence that Abagnale worked with the FBI. According to one retired FBI special agent, Abagnale was caught trying to pass personal checks in 1978, several years after he claimed that he began working with the FBI.
Oh, wow. This is an interesting guy.
So, of course, it's a fun story, and it is very, 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 very loosely based on his actual life. So you could say, well, who cares that all of this stuff in the movie didn't actually happen? It's just a fun story. Again, everything in this movie is just did not happen, and it feels kind of like Bohemian Rhapsody in that regard with Queen.
Yes, although I was going to say less cynical. I don't know, obviously maybe because he's cynical in a different way. I don't know. Well,
I would say it is less cynical because it is an interesting story, and everybody knows everybody knows Queen. Not everybody knows this guy. This guy is an unknown guy until this movie came out, I would imagine. So that means, it's not really cynical in that regard. It's a fun tale. While Bohemian Rhapsody was just, we're gonna retell history to make Queen look good. We're gonna make Queen were all dedicated family members, and they all loved Freddie Mercury so much. Yeah.
And I think also the thing we have with Queen is that there is a story with Queen, so it's kind of like they took that story and they made it worse. Whereas in this case, I guess
interesting.
Yeah, for this guy, there wouldn't have been a story, I guess, if he hadn't made it up, probably.
Exactly. And again, who cares if Frank Abagnale lied about his life really compared to Queen?
Yeah.
So it is.
I guess it makes it more like kind of like fan fiction, but fan fiction about yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it is less cynical. It is less insulting, but it is still, of course, a lie.
Okay. No. Yeah, that is interesting. But no. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's still. Yeah, obviously, it's still like a classic, cat and mouse thing. The chase, it does work very well for a.
A lot of this stuff came out in 2021, so I don't know if Spielberg knew at the time. But for example, the thing with him working for the Louisiana Attorney General, that is completely not true, and that was known 20 years before the movie was in production. So there is some level of, you knew this guy was a fraud. But again, I think with Spielberg, he saw an interesting story. He saw a chance to make a very good movie, which I think he has. And therefore, he took that opportunity. So, I don't think it's at all really like Bohemian Rhapsody. Apart from, yes, it lies a lot, but there is a different motivation, I think, and that is key. That is very key. There's a different intention. I think, it doesn't really matter that this is a lie.
Yes. What's that thing they always say? Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. It's kind of funny, I guess, because it means really, in a way, you could say he could have, if we just regard the guy who wrote it as an author and ignore the fact that he wrote it about himself, we could just say, oh, he's a good kind of mystery detective writer, and just pretend that he didn't write the story about himself.
Exactly, and no one knows the story, so that's
exactly.
Fine. In comparison again to Queen, everyone knows what happened. They're one of the most famous bands in the world, so it's kind of insulting to rewrite history about them, Anyway, so let's get into the script, Michael, which of course we all know none of this is true, but whatever, we have a fun time. So we first see Frank in a prison in Paris, and again, I said, this is a fun movie, but it does, that first scene is key. We show him captured, we show him, struggling, we show him, ill. It does give this movie a sense of tragedy, which is, I think, the case with this movie. It has a nice ending, but it is overall, like I said, a tragedy, and that is very important. All this stuff that happens with him, getting away with breaking the law, at the end of the day, you know what's happening, and therefore every time you watch him succeed in scamming somebody, you know, oh yeah, but this is all going to end really badly, and so that helps with this movie, of course, being a tragedy, really. But anyway, so we'll start off after we get past the scene with him in a Paris prison. We start off with him in 1963. He's living in New York with his dad and his French mother, Paula. He witnesses his father's many techniques for conning people. Because of Frank Sr.'s tax problems with the IRS, the family is forced to move from their large home to a small apartment. All of the showmanship, of course, with Frank Sr. stops working. But of course, he is still a role model for Frank Jr. And I love the substitute teacher scam, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, that one's funny because obviously, I suppose the funny thing about that one is that it's not even really for any discernible benefit. Like, it's kind of, and you know, obviously this does get onto his characterization of it being like he's doing it to kind of entertain himself.
Well, I think he's doing it because he wants to emulate his dad.
Yeah, okay, monkey see, monkey do. Also, I mean, he obviously gets kind of like a petty revenge on that kid who bullied him by like making him read that paper, you know, whatever.
No, exactly. And this is the thing you're missing about the movie, Michael. It's all about the relationship between him and his dad. That's the key to it. And if
Sorry, I don't have daddy issues.
Well, neither do I. But you know, that's the key. When we analyze these movies, Michael, we have to look for these things, and that's why it's a good movie, because that's the central. That's the core of the movie. Frank Sr. is a bad father, and Frank Jr. doesn't realize it, and then he starts to realize it, and then of course he becomes, I wouldn't say resentful, but he obviously leaves his dad in that scene at the end of the or near the end of the movie when they're in the bar. What happened with him and his dad when they left the teacher's office?
His dad laughs and says, "Haha, good one, son."
Exactly. That is eventually what drives him down this path. His father approves of what he's doing. He wants to emulate his father. Anyway, so one day Frank discovers that his mother is having an affair with his father's friend. When his parents divorce, Frank runs away. So, needs money, and of course he turns to scams to survive, and his cons grow bolder. And why does he run away, Michael? Why?
The fact his parents are getting divorced, like there's a general version to that. Like he didn't like the idea of kind of the reality of the stresses of life, and like it was kind of running away from his problems. And the other aspect, I guess, is like the fact he had to make I was going to say something else, but no, yeah. So in my view, it's just that he's like running away from his problems and looking for kind of the easy way out. Kind of like a scam, but obviously in this case not a scam, but like not facing the truth head on.
I wouldn't say, yeah, of course he's running away from his problems, certainly. But also, I think this it's about a broader theme than that, or this specifically, when he runs away from his parents, is about, this is from Spielberg himself, how Catch Me Can deals with themes of broken homes and troubled childhoods. So Spielberg's parents divorced when he was a teenager, similar to the Frank Abagnale situation. In the film, Carl Hanratty is also divorced from his wife, who lives with their daughter in Chicago. This is Spielberg. Some of my films have had to do with broken homes and people on the run from their sad pasts, Spielberg stated. But there are those strands that got me to say, there's something also about me that I can say through the telling of this kind of light-hearted story. He runs away from a broken home because he can't take it. And you can tell Spielberg loves these stories so much. Spielberg is a big, childhood trauma and divorce causes pain for the kids growing up. You can tell Spielberg his characters. Remember in E.T., Michael?
Doesn't like the dad just? Well, hold a minute. The dad's not around. Am I
Yes.
retarded? The dad's not around. There we go.
Yes, the dad is not around. Yes, because of course the mother and the father are separated, and the family has to deal with that. So that is central to what Spielberg loves that shit. So he definitely saw Frank Abagnale, his dad, his mother getting divorced, and he thought, oh, that's what led him down this path. Because the only thing that Frank Jr. took away from his father was his ability to scam people. And he was a kid, he doesn't realize at that time that's what eventually leads to his parents getting divorced. He doesn't realize that. What does he say? I'm going to get them, Dad. Basically, he sees what happened with his dad and thinks it's like the fault of like the banks and so on. And, or he says they took it from us. Like he's angry at I don't know, the people in power, the establishment in general, the people with all the money. Like he's a rebel who is rebelling against the system itself. And of course, he learned that from his dad. His dad never taught him how to be just like plays by the rules, or I guess, or wants to have a normal life. So that is interesting that he, from this divorce, this kid cannot see what caused the divorce, and just took the lessons and the attitude from his dad, and that those lessons and that attitude ultimately caused the pain he's now experiencing. So yeah, again, it's like the children repeating the mistakes of adults or their parents, childhood trauma, those kind of things.
Cyclical.
Yeah, cyclical. Do you get that?
Yes, that makes sense. So yeah, basically, yeah, he emulates his dad, of course. Who doesn't, as they say? Yeah. So, and that's why, and I mean that's so we don't see that much of his. I mean, I guess so. We only see his childhood, I guess, from when he's a teenager, obviously. And yeah, I can see. I mean, yeah, I definitely picked up on the fact he's kind of got a vendetta against the establishment man, which does make sense.
Yeah, because he took that from his dad. And, as we've been through, yeah, that's where the problem lies. But that's the thing. Parental issues, as we've just gone into, are explored in this movie. That is really good. That's a really nice theme. And it's really nice that Spielberg explores it. Again, it's very much on his terrain because he loves this kind of stuff. So let's get on to Frank Abagnale Jr.'s scams now, Michael. So, well, he's scamming people a bit, and then he has the idea to impersonate a Pan Am pilot.
And Pan Am, more like Pan Scam.
Yes, and that's the only thing you wrote down, isn't it?
Yeah. That's the only thing I've got in my entire notes.
And forges the airline's payroll checks. Soon his forgeries are worth millions of dollars. So this is a fun thing he does. I love that he peels the stickers off the airplanes. And yeah, it is a genius thing to do. Although I know nothing about checks, and Americans are much more likely to know about checks as well. Especially watching this movie in 2022, I'm just like, when they're talking about, oh, you can't cash a check here, we don't know you or whatever, I'm just like, yeah, I guess it's smart. I guess what he's doing is smart, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't really have much of a reference for that. I mean, the funny thing is they have the scene with Tom Hanks like explaining the whole check thing, and like I think it's quite clear that scene. Like there's a bit where a guy's like, "Hey, those of us who don't know anything about this financial stuff, why don't you break it down a little bit simpler for us?" And it kind of feels like a scene that is there to be like, we got to make sure people understand. We'll have like the scene, blah blah blah. But even then, it's just not enough because it just but I don't think you necessarily need to know like the specifics of it, but maybe it would slightly add to it.
I think it would add to it, but I agree. I don't think you need to know, so it's fine. It's just, of course, for us, it's a bit confusing. Especially as America, they use checks a lot more as well. I don't think I've ever used a check in my life.
I've received checks from old people.
I have,
yes. But yeah, I've never used one.
Yeah, I like how again he picks on the young girls who he knows he can charm as well. He's a smart Donnie. Yeah,
except for that time when he tries to do it, and then there's some guy there.
Oh yes.
What is he, gay?
So Frank. So this is Spielberg, I think again. Frank was a 21st century genius working within the innocence of the mid '60s, when people were more trusting than they are now. And yeah, I think that's the case. You got a guy, because I do often wonder how this kind of stuff didn't happen more often. Just scam. I mean, maybe they did, but nothing went to as extreme as what is portrayed in this movie. Yeah, because you got to imagine you can scam people so much easier. I think that's why a lot of scams. Or what you had the Nigerian prince email, didn't you? Remember that scam? Yes. And it comes from a country again where it's probably easy to scam people. It's probably easy to scam people in poor countries because it's harder. Yeah,
because they are more desperate as well.
Yeah, they're more desperate, and they're also harder to. It's harder to check whether what this person is saying is true, as well, because of the lack.
Also, I feel like they still these poor countries, they still have like an idea of like people being decent and putting human decency above profits. So they're like, oh no, we live in a nice little village where everyone comes together and they all help each other. Nobody would just completely take advantage of another person just to get some money. But They don't realize how depraved the Western capitalist mindset is.
Well, that's the thing. I think the Western capitalist mindset right now, that's Frank Abagnale isn't really part of that. Well, I would say maybe if he was alive today, he would be doing
maybe he would be a JD Vance.
Yeah, JD Vance, or he'd be a TikTok guy like. This is how
Jeremy Fragrance.
Yeah, Jeremy Fragrance is a very good fragrance reviewer. Let's not get it twisted.
That's true. Yeah. When do you think we're gonna get the biopic about him?
I don't know, but Jeremy Fragrance is not a scammer. His name is Jeremy Fragrance,
And when he had
reviews fragrances.
experiences with gay people. That's what I want to see in the film.
It's really funny. What more do you want from Jeremy Fragrance, man? It's in his name, you know. He reviews the fragrance. He's not a scammer. That's the thing, that you do get people on TikTok who are scammers, of course. There's a lot of scammers going around, you know. I think, you know, Get On Your Grind Set, whatever that's called. I think it's Grind Set, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sigma male grind set.
Yeah, Sigma. Yeah, of course, all these fucking alt-right guys who, you know, scam. Andrew Tate, what a great example. But the thing is, Abagnale is not like that. Maybe Abagnale would be a crypto guy instead. Yeah, that's the thing. Scams are, I think, simple scams like his, again, are not happening anymore. Just more complicated scams, you know, involving, you know, pyramid schemes basically are happening. And he doesn't do any pyramid schemes, obviously, with his scams. And of course, his like old school scams, you know, are definitely that is something that I think, yeah, again, poorer countries that would happen more because of, you know, a lack of technology. I mean, again, he manages to abuse all these systems where, of course, it's impossible to do that today. Do you relate, or do you want to be like him? Do you admire him for?
Girls want to be with him, men want to be him.
For all his scams, because, you know, he's getting away with it, and there is some sense when you're watching him of, yeah, oh, that's so cool. You're sticking a middle finger up to
when he pretends to be James Bond.
To society. Well, yeah, just that really. He's cruising, like he's living the dream, really. Because
yeah. I think there was something about it. I was like I was thinking, you know, personally, you know, and I don't want to sound like a psychopath, but like if I could just like magically take money, like just like magically put money in my bank account, even though I know that it would be you know, damaging the economy by just giving myself money that I didn't work for, and in doing so, at least indirectly harming the wider society, I would do it. But to be fair, I think, to be honest, everyone would. Like if you could just like magic money into your account.
No, I think everyone would.
Actually, it wasn't clear to me. Sorry, I'm interrupting, but it wasn't clear to me like who exactly he was stealing from. Like, was he stealing from the airlines, or was it kind of like, or was it more like kind of he was?
I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I think he must have been stealing from the airlines, right? No. He's not. He's stealing from the banks because.
I was thinking that would make sense.
Yeah, that makes more sense. I'm sorry, because he gets this check from Pan Am. It's like, oh, I've got a check from Pan Am here. Oh, you know, here you go. Here's some money from that Pan Am sent me. Could you get this money out? And they're like, well, of course this is a good check because it's from Pan Am. You know. So,
yes, yeah. So yeah, he would be stealing from the bank. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes. Anyway, so. Let's talk more about the central core of this movie, which is the relationship with his dad. So what's interesting is his dad regrets marrying his wife, which I like. You know, there is some good nuance to that character, where he basically says, "Yeah, I married her. You know, 6 weeks. I'd known her for 6 weeks, and I married her." Again, he's regretting it, and Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't understand that his dad regrets marrying his mother and is just too emotionally immature. That still shows that, he is emotionally immature at this stage of the movie. He just wants to impress his dad.
He's short-sighted.
Yes, his dad and his mother can get back together. And yeah, also I like that Frank... what I really like about the scenes they have together is Frank Jr. is saying, oh yeah, I'm a pilot or whatever. And his dad, I think, knows that he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he doesn't care. He's like, it doesn't matter that he says he's a pilot or not. It's just... that does not matter at all. It's just, is the scam working? You say you're a pilot, I know you're not a pilot, but do other people believe you are a pilot? That's the key. And as long as other people believe you are a pilot, well, then I guess you're a pilot, you know? And that's his thinking. So I really like that. He never asks, are you actually a pilot? Because it doesn't need to be said.
Yeah.
Because as long as people believe it, well, then he is. So there you go. Yeah.
It's post-truth. A bit like how Donald Trump is now back on Twitter. You know, spreading his misinformation. Just thought I'd, you know, get that out there. That makes sense. The fact that, yeah, like, I mean, the relationship, like, it's very clear that he has like a childish attitude towards like his parents' relationship. Like, also the fact that like his enduring motivation is still to get. I mean, I thought this was interesting. Like, and you know, I mean, it relates to the fact, I guess, his dad's given up on the relationship. Well, like the fact that like you can tell that the dad is like very aloof towards the reality of the divorce, while Frank is very upset about it.
That's what I said before. You know,
because he doesn't really.
He's emotionally immature, and Obviously, throughout the movie, he becomes more emotionally mature. But at that stage, it shows where he's at as a character. He still wants to he still wants to scam people. He still thinks his mom and dad can get back together. But yeah, again, his dad doesn't tell him to stop, does he? Even though his dad knows his decisions that he's made in his life have not gone well. But anyway, so the real Abagnale, by the way, never saw his father again after he ran away from home. But Spielberg wanted to continue to have the connection where Frank kept trying to please his father by making him proud of him, by seeing him in the uniform, the Pan American uniform. So yeah, again, the relationship between his father and Frank Jr. is key, so it's no surprise that Spielberg kept having them, have these conversations. Anyway, so let's talk about the FBI guy now, Michael, because he comes into the story now. So news of the crime reaches the FBI. Agent Carl Hanratty begins tracking Frank and hopes to catch him. So this is the perfect character.
If he can.
Yes, this is the perfect character for Tom Hanks to play, because
yes,
he is very, very serious, very by the books, and it's nice that the FBI doesn't really care about bank fraud, at least initially, and he's ahead of the curve, and it's fun to see this guy up against it, who plays by the rules, and again, Tom Hanks is just perfect for that role. You couldn't have cast someone better, could you?
No, yeah. I mean, my dad was recently saying he really liked Tom Hanks, and since he's my dad, I have to agree with everything he does, because that's how it works according to this film. But no, yeah, basically, like I like Tom Hanks in everything, and yeah, I would say this is the kind of role that he does very well. Like he's like the world's dad, really, which I know is weird because he doesn't play the dad in this film, but like obviously he has that kind of sincere, like, I've got to bring the discipline. And to be fair, and I know you're into the whole daddy thing, so you could say in a way he actually, by the end of the film, is almost more like a father figure to Frank than his actual dad.
Oh, that is a good point, Michael, which we were going to mention at the end. But yeah, again, do you see how good this movie is?
I can see how good Tom Hanks is as a daddy.
The themes are that Frank finally has a role model.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and Tom Hanks, of course, is very good to play that role model, I suppose.
And it's a guy who's in complete opposite to his real dad. That's an actual role model for him to look up to. But yeah, of course, we'll talk about that at the end. But yeah, he's perfect. He brings sensible, just a sensible authority figure, which is why he's very good in general in his movies and in this one. So Carl finds Frank at a hotel. But Frank tricks Carl into believing he's a Secret Service agent named Barry Allen. He escapes before Carl realizes he was fooled. This is a very good move. Like, I don't know. I wrote down. I don't know I don't know if it was real. Of course, it isn't real.
Yes, that's funny.
This was before I read that bit on Wikipedia, but it's a great idea. I love that so much. Oh, I've been caught. No. I'll just pretend I'm another,
It's a switcheroo.
Yeah, the law enforcement officer. Beautiful. I love that, because I did think, well, how? Because I've watched this before, but it was years ago. How's he going to get out of this one again? Oh, that's how. That's great. I love that so much. What do you think? Yeah.
I think it's I liked it too. I think it was an interesting decision to basically have like him slip through Tom Hanks's fingers so early on, because I think it kind of like changes, like it like kind of adds that element to the dynamic of knowing that, like, oh, he almost had him, and also I like it shows kind of the power of his like confidence, that he just like hands him a wallet and is just like, yeah, have my wallet, I don't care, which I like.
And also, I think, crucially, it establishes this personal connection between them. So that is crucial. So you're right, they have to meet, and Frank has to somehow get away. And obviously, all of his qualities, all of his skill is on display. And Leonardo DiCaprio does such a great job in that scene. I think he does a great job in this movie, to be honest. Like, that's the thing. Hanks, he delivers, of course. It's a character that he's very comfortable playing. DiCaprio, obviously he was a younger actor at this stage of his career. Like, this is really good. Like, he's good at playing like a fraud. Maybe that's because he is actually a fraud in real life.
Because you mean of how he talks about the climate, but then he travels around in his $1 million yacht. I don't think anyone's ever mentioned that before.
No, I was thinking more of like he thinks he's a good actor, or I don't think if he thinks he is, but he has these roles where, therefore, like talented actors, and he's not really that talented. And so it
Yeah.
feels like it's good that he's playing a fraud. It's like, oh yeah, that fits him very well. You know, that I think he's good at being like innocent and just like a bit clueless, but then also like confident, but like
Yeah.
fake
Pretending. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
pretending to be confident, which is why in his roles where he is
faking it till he makes it.
yeah, but in the roles where he is confident, I don't think it works that well because there's always a bit of you where you're like, I'm not sure this is very believable. You know,
You can still see his. I remember your good friend YMS pointed out that like basically the essence of acting is that you've got to like let go of your own ego in order to like lose yourself in the character. And I feel like that's when like Leonardo DiCaprio like has to actually play a character. I feel like you can still tell that he's got his ego there.
Yeah, I remember I recently watched The Wolf of Wall Street again, and I don't think he's that good in that movie. Honestly, like he's not that charismatic, and it's there's just something missing here, and that's the case with this movie. But the point is, the character that he's playing is meant to be charismatic, but of course he's a con man, which is what makes it work very well. So I think that's great. It's a great role for him. So yeah, this is maybe his best performance. I don't know, but anyway, let's talk more about the contrast between the two main characters. So yeah, of course you have this, live fast, die young, even though he doesn't get close to death really. That's just the phrase, of course. Point of view from DiCaprio's character, and the play by the rules view from Hanks's character, and that is the contrast, and that is what makes this cat and mouse movie so good. And yeah, makes it very fun. I mean, I think cat and mouse movies are inherently fun. Of course, it's fun seeing a chase happen. That is interesting. It's fun, those videos of cops chasing criminals that are filmed by helicopters. They go.
There's a video I've been looking for ages, which is of this cop who tries to chase this guy, and then he falls over. It's body cam footage of it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny.
Those go viral for a reason, because they're fun to watch. They're fun to see someone try and get caught. It's why you play those games as a kid, because it's inherently exciting to watch. The thrill, and therefore, of course, watching it on screen, it's inherently exciting. But again, you have the contrast between the characters. Frank, obviously, having sex with this model, and Hanks is at the laundromat. It's funny, and it seems obvious, which is why what this movie does with Abagnale's character is great, where it goes further into it goes deeper. But yeah, obviously on the surface that is a nice contrast to have.
Yeah,
obviously.
It's also, so it's kind of interesting that you just mentioned The Wolf of Wall Street, because I was thinking about fittingly the thing where you obviously have so he's a fraud in The Wolf of Wall Street, obviously in a different sense.
I need to clarify, by the way. I said his character wasn't a fraud in The Wolf of Wall Street. Obviously he is, but
he's not a fraud about who he is.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, that's it. So he's not pretending to be something he's not in The Wolf of Wall Street. Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah, he's a fraud.
Yeah, but what I wanted to say is, obviously you have the scene on the yacht where there's the guy who's, I can't remember who he's played by, but the that guy who's in quite a few things, the guy who's the main detective trying to take down.
I don't know what he's.
Yeah, Jordan Belfort. Yeah, basically, and there's the whole thing where he's hey, have some lobster. I got loads of lobster. Blah blah blah. And then the detective's just yeah, I don't care. And it's funny because obviously you again have that kind of contrast between the detective who's not living this lavish lifestyle, but he's got that sense of purpose and stuff like that. And then you have the con man who's super rich, but in both cases that actually the detective wins. So I just thought it was an interesting, because for some reason that's literally what I thought about when I was watching him get his clothes dyed pink, and I was thinking, oh man, it's going tough for Tom Hanks, but he's gonna end up on top in the end.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, the difference between these the two characters is, of course, in Wolf of Wall Street, DiCaprio's character, he gets caught in the end, but he kind of gets let off the hook. In this movie, that would not be the case unless he worked for the FBI, of course. And that is the difference between being a con artist when you have an office building in New York, and a con artist when you're you don't have a corporation behind you. One gets treated a lot better than the other. But yeah, I do like that. Obviously, the contrast is there, but of course, he puts on these James Bond suits. He wants to emulate James Bond, and he realizes though this lifestyle is hollow, and he wants to turn himself then into Carl, or just wants to talk. And yeah, there are some
Yes.
great. This is where the character depth starts, because before that he's just been what his dad wanted him to be, which is let them see what they want to see, and it's all about appearance. And he's just trying to scam people, and he's living that life, and he's happy with his James Bond car. He's like, yeah, but then he realizes how hollow that is, and obviously, the house always wins. That's what Hanratty says to him. And the walls are closing in. Maybe he feels guilty about giving the girl he slept with a bad check. I'm not sure, but that's the thing. It's eating him up inside, and he can't really escape that lifestyle. But it hurts emotionally, and it is also stressful. So yeah, that is good character depth from Spielberg to understand that this lifestyle that he lives, he realizes that it's actually hurting him.
Yeah, I do have so I realize you're talking about like kind of like quite a character thematic thing, and I do want to touch on that. But also, while we're on the subject, I do have one like plot criticism, which is I think slightly more than the nitpick, which is that I feel like they don't really explain, in my view, why it is that, like, because essentially he gets himself into positions like when he's, for example, a lawyer or a doctor, where like surely he could just be earning like money. Like, it's kind of like, why is he still cashing fraudulent checks when he's got a job in a really high position in a doctor? Like, surely at that point he's making real checks. And like the thing is, like, they don't really even touch on that. Like, they don't like have a scene, and I feel like this would have worked, both.
Maybe
I
he
guess
was only there for like a couple of months.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah, because I was just thinking to myself, like, it seems like he's in a position now where like he could almost crime himself up by his bootstraps. By which I mean he could like get to a point where he's kind of like, what I suppose the thing is, like, so what I'm thinking about, how like gangsters often talk about like how they're gonna go legitimate. And always like,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. We're going to go legitimate. We're going to buy a legitimate club. We just got to do one more thing.
That's what he tries to do.
Oh, you mean when he like becomes a lawyer?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Because for me, I will say, like, I noticed. So what I'm thinking of is, and I assume you're thinking about this line, and I hope you haven't already explicitly referenced it. Otherwise, it's going to look like I don't listen to you. But the bit where he's talking to Frank.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, sorry, what's the name of the detective? Tom Hanks.
Hanratty,
or whatever.
Carl Hanratty.
Yeah, I'm going to call him Carl. That's much shorter. Yeah, so Frank and Carl, there we go. He's talking to Carl, and then Carl says the line of like, wait, you're talking because you don't have anyone else to talk to, do you? And like, he kind of like, and then he like hangs up and he like laughs to himself. I thought that was a good scene. My only thing is, I kind of feel like that aspect, it wasn't explored that much. Like, he has that line, but I'm kind of like, are there like any other moments where he seems like, well, in terms of like, I guess like his loneliness being, I guess, like a consistent issue for him?
Well,
because it's like, okay, so
it is an issue for him, and that's why he wants to, quote unquote,
that's why he gets married,
settle down. Yeah, which we'll get into. Which we'll get into in a bit. Anyway, so how, and he has these parties in Atlanta, and he's just complaining at everyone because they're not really.
Yeah.
Really
yeah, that's a good one.
Not really his friends. Yes. So how Hanks cracks the case, right? Because this is key. How Hanks knows his name is now Frank Abagnale. So Barry Allen, right? That's the name he gives him, and he assumes he must be a young adult and not a man who was 27 to 30 because he gave him the name Barry Allen, which is of course the name of the Flash.
The Flash, yeah.
Yes, and I can't believe he actually thought Hanratty that his name was Barry Allen though. Like, he's a con artist. Like, surely he'd give a fake name. I mean, I don't know how popular Barry Allen is as a character as well. Like, surely it's possible more than just like young adults know about him. Like, maybe
to be fair, it's a bit of a risk. Yeah,
maybe someone 27 to 30 would know him. That doesn't seem that unreasonable. I'm not sure though. Anyway, also Hanks thinks this guy is based out of New York because he said something about the Yankees. What's the phrase, Michael?
So this is one, I think I'm right in saying that I've got it kind of wrong. He says something like, why do the Yankees always win? I do remember that the wrong answer is because they got Mickey Mantle. But the correct answer is because the other team's dazzled by the stars and stripes.
Oh my!
So that's what they say, isn't it? They're dazzled by the stars and stripes.
You've deliberately got that wrong, haven't you?
No, yeah. I mean, I know he mentions stripes, doesn't he? Like, it's but he doesn't mention stars.
Correct.
I'm right about that on it. It's like the something stripes.
The pinstripes.
Pinstripes, yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Because the Yankees wear pinstripes. That's their uniform. Yeah.
Yeah. For the record, I don't really. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm only 90% confident that the Yankees play baseball.
They do play baseball, correct?
Good. So yeah, because I was pretty sure, but like if I would have said, like, I wouldn't have been shocked if you would have been like, no, actually they play basketball.
Yeah, okay. God, that'd be God.
Is it the New York Nets who play basketball? No, it's the New York Giants.
No, oh my God.
Oh, which one is it? What's the basketball team?
Right, I'm
for
going to
New
give you
York?
4 New York teams. Okay, you're going to tell me.
Okay.
There's 2 basketball teams from this list, and there are 2
Football teams.
American football teams. Okay, so we
It's
got
called soccer.
the Jets, the Nets, the Giants, and the Knicks.
Oh my god. Okay, so I think the Knicks seem like they'd be a basketball,
Correct.
and surely the Nets are basketball.
Correct.
Okay, and then obviously the Jets and the Giants. Okay, yeah, okay.
Well,
So yeah,
okay.
at least when you gave me them, I got it. Yeah,
Okay,
that's fine.
but-
I just imagine, like, I can imagine, like, we're going to see the New York Knicks, and it sounds like it's like a zappy name.
I should have said the Mets as well because they're a baseball team.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got
the Mets
You got the Mets, the Jets, and the Nets. Although
and the Yankees.
yes, the Nets are called the Brooklyn Nets. That's the difference. They're not. Brooklyn
Ah, I
Nets.
see.
Right. Anyway, so
Who's their hockey team?
they have the Rangers and the New York Rangers, and then the Long Island
Celtics.
No, it's the Long Island. I think they're just called the Islanders, actually.
The Long Island Islanders.
Yeah, there you go. I'm not sure. Anyway,
The Ice Teas.
yeah, great. But the problem is, Michael, Carl Hanratty is like, oh, he mentioned something about the Yankees, so he's based in New York. The Yankees are literally the most popular sports franchise and the best.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Yeah.
The best sports franchise in the United States, certainly back then, and were probably the most popular until probably the 1990s with the rise of the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh yeah.
from-
Well, you're from Los Angeles, obviously, because you like the Lakers.
The Lakers. Yeah, but basketball's never been America's most popular sport.
Yeah.
It's
And you must be
all-
from the Manchester area because you like Man United.
yes. It's always been baseball, and then American football in the mid-90s, I would say, took over baseball as America's like number one sport. That's what I'd say. But anyway, yeah, basically the Yankees, popular, incredible. They have incredible success. It's not unusual that some person from like Seattle would reference the Yankees. It's like a German, talking about, oh, why do Bayern Munich always win? Even though like this guy's from Frankfurt, like that wouldn't be weird. Like Bayern Munich dominate the Bundesliga and are the best team as well.
Yeah. Also, the thing is, like, the implication is, like, if he was from like some small middle of nowhere town,
Yes.
he'd be like, like, why does Shreveport, Louisiana, always win?
Yeah.
And then, which wouldn't really work because then everyone would say, I don't
Yeah.
think they do.
So that is the disappointing part in terms of Hanks cracking this case, because it is
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
quite contrived, I will say.
Yeah, well, I had a similar criticism of him cracking the case. I thought it was a bit disappointing that he just finds Hermione has got a note that explains everything that everything that Frank was doing the whole time.
Yes, I do love the moment where Frank's mother asks, "How much does Frank owe?" And
Oh yeah, and
Tom
he's
Hanks,
like 1.3.
$1.3 million. It's just a great moment. Fantastic work from Spielberg.
Yeah,
Or whoever.
yeah, I
wrote,
like that scene.
Or whoever wrote the script. Just a wonderful moment. Anyway, so obviously, this is a part of the movie where we see that Frank wants to stop. So he begins to impersonate a doctor. Again, as Dr. Frank Connors, he falls in love with Brenda, a naive young hospital worker. I like, again, how he wants to settle down and get away from, the James Bond stuff. He is annoyed with the parties. He just wants he just wants a normal life. But again, being a con man means he has to impersonate a doctor. Like, it's the only skill he knows. It's the only thing he can do up until this point. When he says grace at the dinner table in Louisiana with Brenda's family, he repeats the line about the mice in the butter. What's that phrase, Michael?
It's like there's a second
story.
mouse. The 2 mice fell into butter. The first mouse gave up and drowned, while the second mouse kept moving around until it churned that cream into butter, and then it could walk on the butter and escape.
It could escape. So he believes still he is in the bucket of cream. He never considers that he doesn't have to be in the bucket of cream, or how to avoid falling into the bucket in the first place. That's the thing. He still says that at grace, and of course that's the code that he lives by, because he literally says at grace. When it's often a religious thing you say at grace, and that's his religion. That's his mantra that he lives by, and it's like that sticks with him. And that's, again, a lovely moment from Spielberg for him to have him repeat that line. And again, it's a great moment. Again, he's so good. And of course, he never considers, wait, what if I'm not in the bucket? What if I don't want to be in the bucket? Why do I always have to be the mouse, one of the mice in the bucket? Why can't I
Yeah.
get out?
Why
of
can't I be the cow?
Yeah, why can't I get out of that bucket and not have to keep on churning this cream into butter? I don't. And he realizes he doesn't need to do that anymore, and he wants to marry Brenda because he's also like, what if I did something good with my life, with my scams, and I helped this girl I like? Again, it's great, character depth with this character, which on the surface it's like, oh, this Tom Hanks catching Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh, DiCaprio's is charismatic and he spends a lot of money on expensive stuff, and Hanks is a guy who plays by the rules. But there's so much more to Abagnale's character, which makes this movie so good. And of course, he asks Brenda's attorney father for her hand in marriage, and he sees the light. He's trying to get away from the bucket, and he admits to Brenda's dad everything. He's just a kid in love with his daughter. He wants to have a normal life. And that is why he passes the bar by himself without being a fraud or a con man, at least in this movie. So again, I really like that. That's great storytelling right there.
So yeah, the reason he passes the exam on himself by himself is because he wants to live a normal life. See, here's the thing. My thought was that the reason he passed the exam on him by himself was because he was actually naturally just like quite smart, and
well,
the
obviously
point was
that's the part of it, but the key thing
is but the reason why he's motivated to do it at that exact point
why
is because it's like,
why does he want to do it without cheating? Because he's a scam. He scammed everything in his life. Why is he stopping and doing it legitimately? It is because he wants to stop.
The love of a good woman.
Yeah, he wants to stop. He wants to settle down. He wants to have a normal life. He wants to stop being chased. Essentially, he wants to stop being the mouse in the bucket, Michael.
I have a question relating to that. So, if that's the case, do you think that they should have in some way reincorporated that Amy Adams character to because that would seem to suggest that she was quite significant in terms of that development, and I kind of feel like maybe it would have been better if they would have in some way paid off the fact that she was the person who made him want to go legitimate, rather than the last time you see him. Well, I'm not the film writer here, but
what do you mean paid off? Because I think she serves her role in the story well. I don't think you need anything else.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I just feel like, I don't know. It just feels like in my head, I'm just like, I feel like if she's going to have this kind of role of exposing one of the themes, maybe if you wanted to bring it, or especially, I don't know. I guess if he liked her so much, you would think he'd try and get in contact with her again.
Well,
I'm not sure.
Remember, she betrays him.
Obviously, yeah, she does betray him. We've all seen The Room.
That is why he doesn't want to get in contact with her, because she betrays him. So he's like, oh, she probably doesn't want anything to do with me anymore. So that's why he doesn't go back to her. But maybe you could have him at the end of the movie come, as a final scene, knock on Brenda's door and admit to her who he is and what he does and everything. But I don't think that's really necessary, to be honest.
That's fine. I was just wondering if you thought it was maybe a missed.
No, I don't think it's a missed opportunity. No, it'd be fine if you added it on, but I don't think it's needed. I like how again it cuts to Hanks, by the way, later on in the plane when he's trying to figure it out. That's a good, again, because sometimes you get these scenes back in France in 1967, and that's a very good time to have that scene in France when Hanks is asking that. But yeah, I do want to say, again, a great scene when Frank obviously goes to his dad. His dad's in a bar, and Frank, says, "Hey, come to my wedding." He wants him to get back with his mother, and he realizes that his dad has lied to him. His dad has just shielded him from what's happening with his mother. I think that's the case. Frank Jr. Realizes that his dad hasn't been fighting for his mother and is fine with his mother leaving him. I think that's maybe the reality. And also Frank wants his dad to ask him to stop. Stop, stop being this scam artist, stop being this con artist. Can you please ask me to do that? He realizes he hasn't been a good father, and that's what he's asking. It's I have realized I have messed up trying to be or having you as a role model. I realize that that's been a bad idea, because I am now happy not being a scam artist. I am happy, I passed the bar. I have, a wedding coming up with my wife. I'm like, he has that scene where he's, in the family home in Louisiana, and Brenda's parents are singing, and he's like happy, and he's singing, and he's like, oh, this is great. This is what I want to do instead of being a scam artist. And he's like, why? Like, just tell me to stop. Tell me to stop running, please. Tell me to do that. And that's a great scene, like showing how like his character arc, where he has come compared to where he was at the beginning of the movie, and realizing, of course, that his dad has been a bad father when he idolized him.
So yeah, the scene when he sees his dad. Yeah, I mean it's interesting because obviously, wait, I actually want to see if I can. When is that the last time we see his dad?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. So yeah, then he does just leave his dad. Yeah. It is interesting. I mean, obviously, it's kind of weird because it's like his dad doesn't seem to like his dad doesn't even seem to like recognize like what's happening, like in that his dad remains oblivious to it, which is kind of interesting.
What do you mean
like
oblivious?
Seemingly, or I think so kind of to, I guess, the changing attitude of his son. I feel like the dad kind of seems like, I would say the dad kind of seems to not really change his attitude very much.
Well,
which this is not a criticism.
No,
I'm just saying.
No, that is the case because it shows the it shows the contrast. I mean, you need the dad
breaking the cycle.
Yeah. Again, you need the dad to stay as he is to show how far Frank Jr. has come. Yes.
Yeah, I think it would have been like, it's kind of weird because like the one thing I find maybe would have helped a little bit is if like they made it clearer like why the dad was like resorted to scamming, which I know like, maybe I suppose if it's like psychological just because his dad is, but it's kind of like because they seem like quite well off, and it's like
well,
like,
I'm again, that's not really necessary, is it? Because this is a story about Frank Abagnale Jr. So I don't think you need to know why his dad scammed people. That's not really that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because it's kind of like his dad just seems like his dad's scamming is very that's maybe unnecessary, but yeah,
that would be a prequel,
Yes.
Yeah. Again, it's this is a story about Frank Abagnale Jr. His dad scams people, and that has led him down a life of misery. Frank Abagnale Jr. then realizes it, and he realizes he doesn't want to basically follow his dad, and that is again the key theme: breaking the cycle. It doesn't really matter why Frank Abagnale Sr. is the way he is.
I don't care who started it. I care who's going to end it.
Great.
That's what teachers say.
Yes. So let's get on to obviously Carl tracking Frank to his and Brenda's engagement party, and Frank escapes through the bedroom window, telling him to meet him at Miami airport. Again, how Frank gets caught makes sense. It isn't dramatic, so they don't try to make it dramatic, which I like. It's just like, oh yeah, like search. Again, it's a stupid thing to say he's getting married, but again, I think he just wants to maybe tell someone. He wants to tell Carl so Carl can be proud of him, perhaps, that he's getting married. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's nice that, he's so close to this normal life. He's so close to finally, getting married, settling down. But again, he's pulled away. And obviously, there's a great scene at Miami airport where Frank stages a false recruiting drive for stewardesses at a local college. Surrounded by
I remember this. Yeah,
8 women, he conceals himself from Carl and other agents at the airport and escapes on a flight to Madrid. Again, another really fun moment. What are all the FBI agents looking at, Michael?
They're looking at the hot ladies. So they're looking right at him. Which is the funny thing.
What's the metaphor?
I mean, I don't know, but I was going to say like he's hiding in plain sight.
Well, with the Yankees thing.
Oh yes, yeah, obviously. So yeah, the reason because they're distracted by the pinstripes.
Yes, they're looking at the pinstripes, aren't they? They're looking at all the sexy women, not on the guy that they've been there to try and capture. And that's how the Yankees win. Again, that I love it when that phrase it is so beautifully executed in the movie, like in real life, even though I know it's not real life.
It's reified.
Yeah,
that's your word for the day.
It's just perfect. Again, another great setup and then payoff with that scene. They're all looking at the pinstripes. They're not they're not looking at Frank as he waltzes through and goes to Madrid. And obviously you have the nice moment where Hanratty gets humiliated again. So that's fun.
Yes, by that random dude in the cab.
Yeah, another fun moment. So then Carl tracks down Frank to his mother's hometown of Montrechard, France. I guess again symbolic because perhaps Frank he realizes his father was in the wrong, so he's now gone to the place where his mother lived, where his mother's from. You know, he's kind of switched which parent he wants to maybe not emulate, I guess, but just be closest to, perhaps.
Yes.
I'm not sure. Again, but that's nice. And he's incarcerated in a French prison in Marseille, where he becomes very ill due to poor conditions. And Carl takes Frank on.
Yeah, I do want to say I found it funny that like an American is being taken, so like somebody's being extradited to America so they can face better prison conditions, and it's like I don't know, dude. I've seen
He is
American
white.
prisons.
That
Yeah.
should play into it. But yeah, Carl takes Frank on a flight back to the United States. As they approach, the FBI agent informs him that his father has died. Grief-stricken, Frank escapes from the plane and reaches the house of his mother, who is now married to Barnes and has a daughter. And then Frank surrenders to Carl and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Again, that's great. With again, he's grief-stricken, so he wants to go to his mother's house, and again, he sees the daughter, and again he doesn't want to ruin their lives.
Yes.
He did that, and that's crucial. Again, he doesn't want to ruin their life. Like he understands what he has lost, and he doesn't want to ruin it for someone else. Again, it's a great moment to have. Again, there's so much, you know, in a family drama in this movie, or particularly with Frank. You know, the core of it is how he, you know, he idolizes the wrong parent really as well, and also how, of course, you know, what he wants basically to have a normal life. He cannot do that as long as he idolizes that parent, and of course all the choices that he has made has led him to that situation. And it could have been with his mother. He could have, but there you go. So yeah, and obviously, how real is that, Michael? The scene where he escapes from the airplane. How real do you think it is?
You mean like as in based on like historical reality?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to buck the trend and guess that maybe this one actually is realistic.
Yes, it's kind of realistic.
Oh, well done.
I escaped. This is Frank Abagnale. I escaped off the aircraft through the kitchen galley where they bring the food and stuff onto the plane, and there they had me escape through the toilets. I thought he stayed close to the story, but yeah, essentially he said also the bureau had an officer on set for all the shooting to make sure what was said about the FBI was accurate. Which
That's quite funny.
Again, the FBI, the CIA, they're always there. And yeah, of course, he says, I really got most of my info from those retired agents. That's what Spielberg said. So yeah, I think that bit is probably very... He did it a different way, but it's close to being accurate. So yeah, that is interesting. And so yeah, he of course goes on to work for the FBI, and obviously Frank... he has a new role model or a father figure, like you said before, which is of course Carl Hanratty. He was very different from his actual dad, and yeah, he prepares to impersonate a pilot and is intercepted by Carl, who allows him to carry on his act, assuring him that no one is chasing him. He is finally told by a father figure that he can stop Michael. He can stop running. He doesn't need to do that anymore. He doesn't need to be the mouse in the bucket. And of course, he returns and works with Carl in the FBI. And so, yeah, just don't run. Just be a cop. That's the message for every criminal, right, Michael?
Yeah, just be a cop.
But be a cop. If every criminal was a cop, then there'd be no criminals. So there'd be, therefore, less cops, and then they'd go back to being criminals. And that's the circle of life, I guess.
Yeah, like Lion King.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
No, but,
yeah, I mean, also, you take him down from the inside.
Yeah, it's a perfect ending. Like the themes of, you don't need to run. Like, again, this authority figure, this father figure, telling him, "Hey, no, you don't need to do that anymore." It's a great choice for an ending as well. So yeah, I think this movie ties up that loose end very well too, and Frank completes his character arc. So yeah, all good.
Yeah, no, yeah, it
Do
does
you like
make
that?
sense.
Does that impress you?
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, just
The
okay.
completes his character. Yeah, it's fine. He completes his character arc. Yeah. I will say, actually, I did want to say one thing. Sorry, I just for some reason it was the last thing I wrote. I thought I did think it was like quite predictable that he passed the bar exam, like because the guy's like it's the whole thing like, how did you cheat the bar exam? How did you cheat? And even the first time I watched it, I remember thinking he didn't cheat. Like it was kind of like I felt like it was kind of predictable. Which, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's not terrible when a film's predictable. But
it's not emphasized that much though. Like it's not something you're wondering throughout the movie. It's a little twist, but it's not that big a twist. The movie doesn't put that much emphasis on the twist itself.
No, yeah.
It's just a nice reveal. So I think you have a. I don't think you have a point there, Michael. Is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah. I just thought, like, what would have been if they like treat it as like this massive twist? He's just like, I didn't cheat, and like it zooms in. It's like a Kobayashi moment or whatever in The Usual Suspects, just like the most shocking thing ever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
props his coffee. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, so let's conclude. You go first.
Okay, I always go first, don't I? There's actually a really interesting comparison here that I was thinking of. I'm sure you know exactly the comparison I'm going to make. It is, of course, to the movie The Shining. And I don't think I need to explain why I'm making that comparison. No, the reason I'm making that comparison is because I remember when we were talking about The Shining, and you were talking about like the Native American parallels, or the parallels like early European colonialism, and I was saying, yeah, I can see they're there, but they don't really hit me where I live. Like I'm not like wowed by the presence of these kind of parallels. And I guess because I feel like the film could have done more with them. And it is kind of my take here. And it's more like, because you mentioned like depth, but the thing is, this isn't like, in my opinion, in my humble submission, like a super deep character study compared to like, I don't know, something like, like Moonlight or something like that, where it's like, there's like a whole lot going on. And like, also I feel like in a way, the other thing, maybe this is another thing that's bothering me. I think this is probably the biggest thing. I think this film didn't really have too much like emotional weight to it, which I think for me would have helped a lot, because I think like when you've got a character study, like having the themes there is good, but like I think for me, like to help it land, I need a bit more kind of like emotional weight. For example, like there's a line where obviously we find out that he's lonely, and it's kind of like I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that, and like obviously there's kind of you can intellectually recognize things about his character from that. I feel like maybe for me to push it above.
So you want the movie to be less subtle.
Well, not necessarily. It's not really about subtlety. I think just like he can be emotional. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I suppose maybe, but not because I feel like
infer everything from this movie.
No, yeah, but I felt like for me it would have like connected with me more if there was like an emotional aspect to it. And I think generally speaking,
did you want him to break down crying or something?
Oh, I would have loved it if he broke down crying.
I don't know. What would you have liked? I don't.
Well, I don't know. See, I feel like it's not as simple as just like I would like this one thing exactly. Just like I don't know, and also maybe like just I feel like maybe what it is also is I like character kind of archetypes. Which is probably why I like Coen brother movies, where which I suppose does speak to like less subtlety, where like the characters kind of represent big ideas rather than like people. But the thing is, this has always been, it's worth noting, a point of contention between us, because I know that you like films about characters that seem like real people. I know that's your thing, and I'm pretty sure there have been, the only other film I can think of where we've disagreed on this before is Lady Bird, which admittedly is a while ago, but I'm pretty sure there's been a few other films where like I think your main preference for the film has been like it's a character who feels like a real person, and then for me, I don't know, I don't like that as much. With all that said, let's talk about that now. When it comes to like rating it, I'm going to give it a high 6.
Why do you even review movies?
I don't know. I just love the thrill.
Like it's a great. You have a great character arc. You have this very, very interesting relationship with his father. You have this thing of, like the sins of the father being replicated by his son because of the childhood trauma of divorce, and that is something of course Spielberg is very much into. But I think it's a very nice theme as well. And again, it's a really fun movie as well. Like it's fun as well. And again, it's also a tragedy at the same time, because it's tragic what this guy's life has become. And again, every little thing is tied up. Every little thing, every little character arc or character change makes sense. And yeah, I think it's fantastically done. Like it's really like tight. And again, you said you don't like character arcs or whatever. I mean,
I hate character arcs.
I don't understand that. They're very interesting to see. They're very interesting to see. And again, I think this is a fucking like great movie. Again, there's no like complex themes about society, so on. It's a very personal. And yeah, of course, I didn't mention, of course, the role of Carl Hanratty, who becomes basically his dad at the end, and basically then puts him on the right path. it just all works so well. So yeah, I think this is, again, no complex themes about society, which again I like those movies a lot as well. And so yeah, I think this is like this is fucking great. This is like I'm thinking a 9 or a 9.5. I shall give it a 9. I think, because again, I think there's, you could argue, oh yeah, the way Hanks catches or finds out who Frank Abagnale is with, the Yankees thing and the Barry Allen thing is a bit contrived, which of course it's a cat and mouse movie as well, which is why it's fun. But cat and mouse game, the big break for you has to make more sense perhaps. So yeah, a 9 out of 10 for me. Again, incredible that you rate this lower than a 7. That's just remarkable. I remember at university, I think a lot of people really liked this movie as well. And again,
I remember watching this at university.
Yeah, and what has this movie got on Rotten Tomatoes? I know it's not the be-all and end-all, but I'm pretty sure it's damn high.
It's got
certainly higher than The Chamber of Secrets.
It's got 96%.
Oh wow, 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. Wow, fucking hell, that's high. That's very fucking high. Damn. Okay, so again, that doesn't mean I'm right and you're wrong, but it kind of does. Right. Anyway,
it just means more people agree with you. I think we can agree on that. Anyway, more importantly, what are we doing next week, Luke? No, you asked me that.
No. More importantly, let's go through some receipts. So, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. You said it would get 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. I said 79. And what is the actual answer? It's 84.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, you were closer by 1, of course, which means you were 4 away. I was 5 away, which means your score goes up to 114, and my score goes up to 120. So the gap has gone from 5 to 6 now, and of course lower is better. So you are winning by 6. Now let us guess what The Fabelmans is going to get, Michael. The Fabelmans on good old Rotten Tomatoes, the new Spielberg movie. So you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So 3, 2, 1, 91.
68.
Okay. Wow.
I thought go big or go home. Let's assume that he gets a flop.
Have a lot of faith in Steven Spielberg then. Damn. Okay.
Yeah, it's ever since he said that films are bad because people they're like, ever since he said that streaming is terrible.
You know what this movie is about, right? The Fabelmans. It's basically a retelling of his childhood to some extent.
Yeah, okay. So it's going to be a lot of divorce, eh?
Yeah, there's probably going to be a divorce in there. But that's the thing. This is a personal story. He'll take a lot of time, care, attention, and he'll really Spielberg it up. I think this is going to be one of his better movies in recent years. So yeah, 91. What are we reviewing next week, Michael?
Well, next week we are reviewing Good Will Hunting, 25-year anniversary.
That's another very good movie, Good Will Hunting. So yeah, we're into we are really doing a lot of good movies in this part of the year.
Oh yeah, we are.
Finally moved on
really got
from
lined up.
all the Chamber of Secrets bullshit.
Finally. I can't believe it felt like we were never going to be finished with just the weeks and weeks on end of reviewing Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah, all the Halloween stuff as well, and Black Panther is mediocre. The Chamber of Secrets is mediocre at best. So yeah, good movies are now on the horizon. So yeah, that was our review of Catch Me If You Can. Join us next week for Good Will Hunting. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
Luke, thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.